So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's YouTube? Dad here from Fluffal Games, bringing you, as you can see before you, or as I'm going to show you right now, Fluffals. So this is possibly my pick, or one of my picks for the meta relevant decks of the Master of 5 format. I already showed you a go first combo that this deck now has thanks to the ban list not touching Buster Dragon, as well as additional backup that the deck itself can perform. It's very, very powerful at OTK and going second. Stuff like Sabertooth Tiger, coupled off with Frightfur Kraken as well, can really, really pull your opponent's board apart and then attack into the game. With that being said, without further ado, please smash that like button. Let's get this video up to at least 50 likes. That would be amazing. Every like that you do provide and every time you subscribe shows so much support towards the channel, especially in this period of isolation as well. If there are any questions or videos that you would like to see, please put them in the comments down below and I'll be more than happy to do them for you. With that said and done, let's get on to today's Master of 5 profile of Fluffals. Yes, they are fluffy, but they are incredibly dangerous as well, as you can see when you go from their main deck to their extra deck. Cute, fluffy, strong and dangerous. So the deck is incredible fun to play. I really, really enjoy it. It's a shame that this lot hasn't had, so it's had 2 prints. So you should be able to pick this up relatively budget in a sense that you can pick up most of these cards a little bit cheaply as well, because they all came in like commons or rares, and then everyone that's collected the deck for a while have rarely bumped them to higher. So we start off with Triple Fluffal Dog. This is your rotor of the deck, your Stratos, your Deneb, your main deck searcher. It lets you add, when it's normal or special summoned, 1 Edge Imp Sabers or 1 Fluffal monster from the deck to the hand, except itself. So the idea is you then search out your wings, or 9 times out of 10 you're going to be searching out your Fluffal Bear. Now Fluffal Bear, you discard this to set, so it can't be ashed, beautiful, to set a toy vendor from your deck to the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. Alternatively, what you can do is you can treat this card, then target 1 Polymerization in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Now you've got enough cards that search you out Polymerization that you don't need to worry about using that effect. It is literally just to get your toy vendor on board. We then play the combo that goes with bears, and that is Triple Fluffal Wings. So the idea is you discard bear, set your vendor, activate your vendor, discarding wings. Doesn't matter what you mill. Wings then allows to banish itself and bear. Banish itself, draw 1 card. Banish bear, then pop vendor, draw another card, and then vendor will get you an additional search as well. So it's insanely consistent and well powerful. I then played Triple Penguin. Now, not a lot of people play Penguin, but the reason I play this is part of the combo that I showed you guys as well, is it is a very, very good extender. So the idea is, with this card, is during the main phase, you can special summon 1 Fluffal monster from your hand, except itself. Then, if this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion material for a fusion summon, you get to, for a Frightfur monster that is specifically, you draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. And you use each effect once per turn. So the idea is you've got a decent graveyard effect when it uses fusion material, as well as the additional to extend your board if you want to. We then play Triple Edge Imp Chain. This is the least effective for some of your fusion monsters, because most of the fusion monsters actually list sabers, but it's still incredibly powerful because if it is sent to the graveyard, so if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you get to add 1 Frightfur card. So the idea is this can search you out. Finally, we get to play it in a Master of 5/3 format, Frightfur Patchwork. It can also search you out your Frightfur Fusion and, of course, the one-off Frightfur Factory as well. So very important for the searchability. We've then got the 1 Edge Imp Sabers. Now, Edge Imp Sabers can actually recycle itself by putting the card from your hand to the top of your deck, and it brings itself back to the field. So it's very, very important that way because it allows you to continue extending your plays, and it also gives you the Edge Imp monster that you need. So all of your fusions require at the very least, an Edge Imp card and a Fluffal card just to go into it. So you have to make sure you've got one of each of these, one of either of these on the field when you go it. You've got the 1 Fluffal Cat. This is if it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material for a fusion summon, you target 1 poly in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Fluffal Owl. When this card is normal or special summoned from the hand, you can add 1 poly. Alternatively, you can pay 500 life points to fusion summon 1 Frightfur fusion monster from your extra deck using this card as this card from your hand or filled as fusion material. Only use one Fluffal out effect per turn. And then finally, Fluffal Sheep. This is your extender. So if you control a Fluffal monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then alternatively, you can return one Fluffal monster from your you control to the hand and special summon one Edge Imp monster from your hand or graveyard. Only use each effect once per turn. And then we've got any hand trap. So this can be Nibiru's if you want. I've got 2 Ashes, and the reason I've got 2 Ashes is because the final monster of our deck is the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So your big boss monster or Frightfur Sabertooth is actually a dark. So this right now, while you can, in any deck like this that can end on a big boss monster that is either dark or dragon, and you can play Union Carrier, this is a way of doing it. And it's incredibly powerful for any deck that can't go first effectively. By that, what I mean is something like Crusadia, where the best thing they could possibly set up through its own archetype is Equimax with a negate, or unless you play the Dragon combo. Stuff like Dinos going first are actually very, very powerful right now. But if you're going to be like, right, I need to side in the Artifact Engine and I really hated drawing Scythe, you could just side in this or main this. And it means that if you do go first, or you get forced to go first, you can play this. So that is one thing I will say about this card, is you can easily take it out should you want to, and put it in as a side card. But you're going to be making Union Carrier if you do go first, or if you feel you want to make the risk. From 3 cards, 3 of your consistent cards as well, you go first, you build your board, you set yourself with a Dragon Buster alongside a Frightfur Sabertooth, which can't be destroyed by a card effect, and it becomes a 3800 beta. You then protect yourself for an entire turn and an OTK, so it just gives you a couple of alternatives to play around with. Moving on to the spells, we play triple Frightfur Patchwork. Now, we actually got this in Master Rule 4, so we never actually had a chance to play this card in a format with Fluffals that could flood the board. So it's great to have this, because what this does is it adds one Edge Imp monster and one Poly from your deck to your hand. You can only use it as hard once per turn, but it's just the ability to search out the second part of your fusion materials and a polymerization to get that fusion summon successfully on the board. Speaking of which, we do play triple polymerization. Quite straightforward on this one. It is a fusion deck. You need to play 3 of these as possible. Triple Foolish Burial of Goods. Now, some people I've seen cut this to 2. I think 3 is the right amount. Yes, you only have 1 target for it, and 9 times out of 10 you are searching out the ability. You're searching out the vendor or setting it with your bear. But the issue is, if you don't open up any cards to get to it, but you do get to a Foolish Burial of Goods, you send your toy vendor from deck to the graveyard, and your toy vendor then straight away allows you to add 1 Edge Imp Sabers or Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand. So it gives you that consistent search ability should you need it. It's not a hard once per turn. So even if you have the bear combo, which bear is a hard once per turn, if you want an additional search to get into your penguin for extenders, or your sheep for extenders, your owl for fusioning, your cat for recyclability, you can Foolish Burial of Goods this and get the piece that you require. Very important, very, very powerful. And not to mention, if its own inbuilt search ability wasn't good enough, once per turn you discard 1 card, draw 1 card and show it. If it's a Fluffal monster, you get to special summon 1 monster from your hand. So it doesn't even have to be a Fluffal monster. As long as you reveal a Fluffal monster, you can special summon anything from your hand. Otherwise you send it to the graveyard. We've then got 2 Super Poly. Again, this is something that you could easily bump up to 3 should you take out Foolish Burial of Goods, entirely up to you. I still play the 1 Instant Fusion, purely because at this moment in time, if you do open it up, you can use it to get into your sheep, and your sheep then becomes an extender. This allows you to basically dodge Nibiru, but get to your Frightfur Sabertooth a lot quicker and consistently in the combo that I showed you guys yesterday. It just allows you to get there, whereas in other periods you might not have been able to, or you would have required more to do so. So it gives you a little bit more of versatility and to play around with it. But again, Instant Fusion can come out for your 3rd Super Poly. Nothing is married in this. 1 Monster Reborn, because all your monsters are fusion monsters that can, after they've been successfully summoned, revive themselves. So being able to, I know like Sabertooth does the revival, but sometimes being able to get a fusion monster on the board, if you don't have one of your fusion spells that banishes from the graveyard, actually allows you to make a good comeback. And allows you to get into the boss monsters that you do require in order to finish the game off. Then got the 1 Frightfur Fusion. This basically allows you to fusion summon 1 Frightfur Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard. Quite straightforward and simple. This is the one you send with Predaplant Verti Anaconda. And then finally, the Frightfur Factory. So you banish one Polymerization spell card or Fusion spell card from your graveyard, except Delusion, Wave, Motion, Fusion. Fusion summon one Frightfur Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or your side of the field as fusion material. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Frightfur Fusions, add it to your hand. Only use the effect once per turn. So the idea is that you're going to banish your Frightfur Fusion 9 times out of 10, because you can recycle your Polymerization. If you haven't got the Polymerization, you can just banish that. If you don't need to recycle your Polymerization, you can banish that instead. And then, if you send this, whether you make your own Tiger and your Tiger pops it, you then get this back. So a nice little combo that actually works nicely with this is if you activate this and you've already, let's say you've done your Predator Plant Verti Anaconda combo, you've gone round, and you're just 2 polys away from OTK. You shouldn't be, but just as an example to see where this comes into play. So you activate your Frightfur Factory, which can be searched off of chains, by the way. You then banish your Frightfur Fusion, and using the Frightfur Fusion, you make yourself your Frightfur, where are you? Frightfur Tiger. Tiger's effect on summon targets your Frightfur Factory as one of the materials. You destroy this, sending it to the graveyard. You then get to add back your Frightfur Fusion. You can then play your Frightfur Fusion and use the Tiger you've just made to go into a Sabertooth. Sabertooth can then revive any of your fusion monsters from the graveyard. So straight away, by using this one card here and pre-set up materials in the graveyard, you're able to come back in the grind game. And not only come back, but bring yourself 2 monsters on board that are going to be Colossuses, and straight away are going to win you the game. So that's why I play the one Frightfur Factory. You can take this out if you want to. It is not a necessity, but I still think that in the example I've just given you, it is very, very versatile and very, very important for the deck. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. We'll go for the Link monsters first. So start off with the brand new Predator Plant Verti Anaconda. Now, like I said, you send the Frightfur Fusion. It has to be the last thing you make or the last effect you activate. By paying 2,000 life points, you send a fusion spell from deck to the graveyard, which can be Super Polymerization if you're going second, because you can actually turn one of your opponent's monsters into a dark monster. In doing so, to make your Super Poly more live, you would side in stuff like Starving Venom and the Mud Dragon. I'll show you the reason I don't have those in the extra deck, because I've gone for a more link-based variant, just so that it gives me more first-turn plays, more disruptive plays, and more ways of winning the game. I've then got the one Union Carrier. Now this is literally in here for the Dragon Buster combo, just in order to connect a Dragon Buster to your Sabertooth. That then locks your opponent out of the extra deck, and I don't think there's a better go first card than that, apart from opening up your Sanctums, which if you want to, you can put in your 3 Sanctums and your Scythe as well. But it's one weakness that the deck does have, is its go first board used to always be Sheep, because Sheep could then recycle itself. So you have to be very, very careful in what you're going for now, and Union Carrier is a very, very consistent way of being able to lock your opponent down for a turn. The one Cross Sheep, so if anything looked more like a Fluffal monster, it is definitely this card here. So you are going to fusion summon a heck of a lot. This is then going to be able to revive one of your Fluffal monsters, just to allow you to extend a little bit further. So if you've got another Poly in hand, it allows you to go that little bit further to get the material back, whether it be an Edge Imp or whether it actually be a Fluffal, to then go into a second fusion. 9 out of 10, that could be a Kraken or a Tiger. You're popping cards, you're sending cards, you're attacking twice, you're building up the game. We've then got the one IP Masquerena, the one Nightmare Unicorn, and the one Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. Now, these 3 can be taken out completely. The only reason IP is in there is for a more defensive play. So if I've already got my Union Carrier play, in the combo that I showed you that was from Raw Sangan, he made Verti Anaconda Union Carrier. Now, if I've already got my Poly in hand, or my Frightfur Fusion to make the Fusion Summon, I can actually make IP Masquerena the exact same way, because I'm not going to have 2 Link monsters. I can then use make Union Carrier. Union Carrier then equips to the Frightfur Sabertooth, locking my opponent out of the extra deck. Should my opponent drop anything that's a spell or trap, let's say they drop Mystic Mine on me, or anything that is really, really going to hurt me, at a certain point, if they, Mystic Mine's a bad example, but if they drop anything or set anything, let's say they set one card, and that one card could be anything, that'll actually blow me out. You use IP Masquerena, turn into Unicorn, discard a card that could be a Edge Imp Chains, and then bounce the card back to their hand. You're out of danger. Alternatively, you can make IP Masquerena into your Avramax, and Avramax is going to be an insane boss monster that's going to cause your opponent a heck of a lot of issues already. So you couple up your Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax with your Tiger, you've pretty much got a game. These are additional overkills, and these can be like a Boral Sword as well. These can also be your instant fusion targets. So you do not worry if you don't have these, you can take them out. They're just additional fodders on additional steps in order to interrupt my opponent and give my opponent more of a wall to deal with going first. Then for the one-offs of the Frightfurs, we've got the one Wolf, the one Dangerous Frightfur Nightmare, and the one Frightfur Sheep. Now obviously Sheep loops itself, but the idea is that Sheep is just there as a nice like old school Archimedes to protect your stuff, and then like I said, float as well. Dangerous Frightfur Mary is a protection from itself being targeted. It's a 3k defender and a 2k attacker, and then Wolf just allows you to attack as many times as materials you've used for its fusion summon. Do not underestimate Wolf. He can actually get you just as many wins as the Kraken Sabertooth combo as well. Speaking of which, we do play the double Sabertooth and the double Kraken. Now Kraken is the expensive one that's actually a little bit harder to get hold of because it's only ever had one print. Sabertooth is just as hard, but it was about £4 before MR5 came into effect, or just as MR5 was announced. I know Kraken's a little bit more expensive than that as well. But the idea is the combo of these two again, because Kraken gets to send a card, then it gets to attack twice, Sabertooth gets to attack once, and then Sabertooth gives these cards an additional 400. So the fact we're now no longer locked into a link zone allows you to play around with the deck a little bit more and gives you a lot more to play with. And then we finish off with two Frightfur Tiger. This one allows you to destroy cards equal to the number of fusion materials used for it. 9 out of 10 is going to be 2, but if you want to use more fusion materials, you can. Just in order for you to pop more cards, you can actually clear the board off. If you've got more materials to use for its fusion summon, you create more, you pop more, you clear the board more. Simple as that. And that is it for the deck profile. Again, quite straightforward on a Fluffal build, but very, very powerful. Do not underestimate this deck. This deck, I expect to do some very, very good things in Master Rule 5. I actually expect it to pretty much take a lot of wins as well. It's, like I said, incredibly powerful, very, very versatile. Its biggest weakness, the exact same as any go second deck, is that its go first board isn't as impressive as a break my board kind of, let's say, Orcus board right now. An Orcus board right now can be a ding with a Babel or a Crescendo, plus additional protection that then can go into Topological Zero Boros, anything like that. Whereas this, right now, go first in this building, not including your side deck. The best thing you can kind of do is an IP ready to go into a Unicorn, alongside a Sabertooth with a Buster Dragon knocking your opponent out of the extra deck, and for a good measure, a Super Poly. Now, the Super Poly only comes into effect once you put in those materials of your Starving Venom. And that's where this deck can be altered. This deck is built for being able to sustain the balance of going first and second. If I face an opponent that says, right, I'm going second, I'm not going to go, oh crap, I'm going first, I'm going to lose this one now. I'm able to go, that's fine, I can actually lock you out of the extra deck, and then I'm going to OTK you. Whereas if I built this purely for going second, the second my opponent goes, okay, I'm going to go first, and my opponent is going to go second, then I'm going to go, cool, cheap pass. Now, one big thing that this deck has to deal with is a Winder Pass. Now, that is going to be the most consistent deck, in my opinion, coming up. And I will be doing you a top 5 meta deck video tomorrow as well. And I'm also going to try and talk you through the budget options of how to make those top 5 meta decks budget, what you can take out, what you adapt, and what you lose by changing them but making them budget, which means you guys can play them as well. If you actually look at the top 5 that I'm going to bring you tomorrow, at least 4 out of the 5 of them have been structured decks that you can get hold of, and one of them's getting a reprint as well. So there's no excuse not to build the decks. The decks are incredibly powerful. They all have different versions of themselves as well. There's go second OTK decks. There's control based go first decks with back row control. There's also obviously Winder Pass control, and just different things like that Master Rule 5 has brought us. With that being said, please smash that like button. Every like you provide the channel shows us so much support, and every time you subscribe or hit the notification bell as well, it shows us massive support and allows us to keep doing what we are doing, building towards our goal, especially while we're in isolation. I'm also going to keep the beard going while we're in isolation as well, so when I come out of this I'll look like Gandalf the Grey. Hopefully with a little less grey, fingers crossed. Anyway, thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time guys, as always, happy dueling.